In this video, we're going to look at a principle scheme of the thinking method and actions that we can apply to improve our communication skills. Of course, this isn't an exact science, so don't go rushing in accepting all the principles in the order that they are presented here. Rather, show more initiative towards examining and experimenting with things and practices on your own account. In the meantime, here we're going to look at a principle scheme that really helped me in the process of developing, and I do believe that it can be useful for you as well. But from there on, for you, this scheme is only an example that you can use if you so desire. If you're new to the channel, remember to subscribe so that you can keep an eye out on the new videos that are being uploaded and how it's going to develop. One of the first things I believe we should mention and focus on is being brave, mainly because when we focus on something, we tend to overthink everything. The truth is that if we are seeing any kind of opportunity, then there are many prerequisites that will allow us to establish the contact we're looking for. Another property that bravery has is that it gives us the confidence to find the resolutions to the questions and tasks that we are working on. And here's how it works: by being open and honest with our thoughts and actions. This does mean to an extent that we should know what we're thinking, why we're thinking about it, and in what direction we want to develop it in, and what we're actually doing, because there's a difference between what we're thinking, what we think we do, and what we're actually doing, or more specifically, what we're producing as results. When we're open to sharing, people around us are able to make a good assumption of what kind of person we actually are. And it actually makes us more forthcoming, more open. This is a basic trait to becoming more communicative, and in that process we become more confident. Expanding on this idea, or the example that we can take a look at, is to openly do the things that we're passionate about. More specifically, the example that I have in my life is books. When I'm reading something, or I read a lot at some time, I read at work or on the bus when I'm going somewhere, and so on. And a lot of the times when people around me have just seen a book, has become ground for initiating contact because people are curious. In the same way, the things that you're passionate about doing, you can do them without the necessity to stand out, but rather because it's interesting to you, because you're curious about it. And a very good example for this just came to mind: Tom Sawyer when painting the fence, where it was given to him as a punishment, but he was able to do it in such a way that brought the curiosity of the other children, and by the end, the only person that wasn't painting the fence was Tom Sawyer, and every other child was. This example was focused on how when we do things with passion, passionately, it attracts attention and we're able to establish new connections, moreover than how we can manipulate people. Having that in mind, you can be confident that the frequency of the surrounding environment is reflective of the frequency that we ourselves are emitting. On one hand, first, if this isn't true, there is no way that we would be able to experience this interaction or exist in it. Having said that, you can be confident that you are connected in some way with whatever contact, connection, or interaction you're attracted to or focused on. The idea is that we should look for what it is, and this happens with practical actions because they are reflections of our way of thinking and the symbolism of what kind of person we are. And the example that I would give here is that Jesus has a saying, "Wherefore by their fruits ye shall know them." The most common case where I've heard this excerpt to be used is when people are talking about the new teachers, the new carriers of information that are going to come, and that through their actions we will be able to recognize them. But the more I look at it, it's actually about every single person. This is how we are able to fully assess the personality of the person that we are interacting with, regardless of what someone is doing, what someone is saying. Results manifest after action. And for us as progressive beings, it's important to know who we can rely on and for what. How are you finding the video so far? I would love to hear your feedback. If you like it, give it a thumbs up and share it in the social media so that we can help the video reach more people and for more people to reach the video. I believe that everybody has met people that talk a lot, they sound very inspired, but they do exactly the opposite, if anything at all. And they just use words to make themselves feel important and significant. In the most common cases, these people are useful for killing time and having a little fun, because they don't have the practical experience that would be useful to us to achieve something, which makes their advice or information practically useless. And here's another example. The basis for any contact is common interests or need. I would say that both things are similar by themselves as an interest or necessity, with the difference being that the need is something we are looking for out of necessity, moreover than because we're interested in it. Here I would like to lead you on the thought process that the more things we do, that much more interests we develop, and this subsequently increases the basis that we have for establishing contacts with others. And at one point we become so experienced in multiple directions that people start looking for us for advice or guidance. This is when we ourselves become interesting. And from the point of view of need, this means that we will have a very valued experience that can be useful for the surrounding environment. From this point of view, we're also going to be useful and a point of interest. Or the opposite, when we start something and it's completely unknown to us, our interest is going to push us to do more research, and our need to develop in this direction will provoke us and push us to establish more new contacts with other people in the same niche. So to summarize, this means that in every interaction that we participate in, we are in both the role of the teacher and the student. In my case, one of the more significant examples that I have at the moment is the running community in Bulgaria, or more specifically in Sofia, because when I started running as an exercise, new individuals came into my life and I was able to find more people with the same interest. I should mention and underline that both happened. They both came in and I was able to find people who give me guidance on what I can do to continue developing in that direction. And what I see is that this is genuinely a very positive community that actually likes what it's doing. And whenever there's a huge group of runners that come to a training or an event, I find it very intriguing because I'm able to find more people that are doing the same thing that I like to do, and at the same time I'm able to see how they do it and learn from their technique, which helps me develop. So here is how interests and needs co-align together. Now here you might start asking yourself, where do you start from when you don't have anything that you like to do, or you think that you don't have any interests? Here the idea is to start from somewhere, work on something that we have an interest to or we find appealing. It doesn't matter what it is, it doesn't even matter if we consider it big or small. In general, the idea is to do something, to start doing it, developing it, to examine it, and to learn from it. And in the process of developing, since everything has specific requirements for it to develop, we will reach the conclusion that in the end we are actually examining different things. And because of this, we are able to generalize the current rule or the current step as following our passion. Because this is the motivation that drives us from starting something that we are attracted to, and we start developing it. It starts expanding more and more out of necessity for it to adapt to the surrounding environment. Here I'll open a bracket that we should always strive towards getting to know our surrounding environment, closing bracket. And in the process of developing, we become so enthusiastic that when we see an opportunity to continue working on what we love, or just when we start working on something that we're interested in, we start seeing all the different connections that we are able to use, i.e. we start seeing how new things that we've never thought about being useful until this moment, we are able to use in such a way that can be useful and profitable in the direction that we are developing in. And this is how we become more open-minded, which also means that we become more communicative. Because more or less, at one point we're going to need to establish new connections, interact with new people, so that we can uncover new opportunities, develop new abilities, to learn something new, and so on. And here we're just talking about the need to continue developing in order to further the development of the things that we're working on. What about the enthusiasm that we experience when we achieve or succeed at something new? We haven't mentioned that yet, and it is just as powerful as an emotion for creating new connections, because we just start creating them because we're so excited to share what we've learned. And in which case, the emotional drive is enough to attract other people whose interest has been piqued, meaning that part of following our passion is finding ways to enrich our knowledge and experience by constantly looking for and testing new things. A conversation that is rich on information is always attractive. This is one of 3 bullet points that I would like to share with you regarding following our passion. The second one is that there is no necessity or there is no need for us to control where an interaction that we're participating in is headed. As an example, we can use a conversation. There are occasions where during a conversation we feel like it's straying away from topic, and where we're really enthusiastic about the theme that we're exploring, we may be prone to rewind so that we can get back to the topic where we feel like it's going in the right direction, and in so doing to try to control the conversation. But the truth is that since everybody is different and has different experiences, everybody develops a different point of view, everybody passes through experiences in a different manner. We have different resolutions, conclusions, and decisions for practically the same thing. So when we don't understand something, when we feel like it's unfamiliar to us, it's okay to ask questions about how it's connected, what it has to do with the conversation, the initial theme that the conversation started with, so that we can develop a better understanding of the information that is being provided to us, instead of directly jumping to the conclusion that we are straying away from the theme of the conversation, or that it has become useless. And in this way, we also gather more information. It's very useful because now we're talking about sharing experiences. This is new information, new perspectives, new way of understanding, and subsequently when we start examining and exploring those ideas, a new way of thinking, i.e. development. So having considered this, my advice in this direction would be to ask guiding questions, or rather to check and confirm in what way this is connected, which literally means to ask how this is connected with the theme that we're talking about. And in this case, the people that are interested in helping us in this direction will start reverting back and giving us the connections that they have and may have overlooked, because it is a common case where when we're talking or explaining something, we think that it's clear why and how, since we already have reached that conclusion. This isn't always the case. So from this point of view, the advice would be to be patient on whichever side we are on. If we are the ones that don't understand something, patience towards the other person so that we can allow them to explain. Or if the person isn't understanding us, patience towards him so that we can explain it to him. And having said that, the third bullet point that I would offer you regarding this point is to be unbiased towards the interactions that we're participating in. Meaning that we should detach from the expectations that we have of what is or is going to happen. This is what I would call a hard version of what we can do, because we don't do anything in the interaction to guide it, where we are solely leaving ourselves with the full trust and belief that it is what we need and is necessary and is useful to us at this moment, by doing everything that is required or requested from us without any expectations, without any pretenses, with the idea of exploring, understanding and expanding on the idea that we believe to this moment that it is in no way connected with what we're looking for. And why should we do that? As we mentioned in the previous step, our surrounding environment's frequency is always a match of our own frequency that we're emitting, meaning that whatever happens is always in alignment with our needs and what we're looking for. It might not be the specific thing that we're thinking about at the moment, it might be about another task, another question that we have. This is just an example so that we can understand why we should detach ourselves from our expectations. A lot of the times when we're too focused on one single idea, we forget about everything else that we're doing. And I'm underlying that it's not every time that when we're in an interaction, it's about us receiving help. And coming out of this advice, we're coming into the next step, which is working with uncomfortable situations. Or to put it in another way, the unknown. In general, The more we go into uncomfortable or unknown, unfamiliar situations, we see that much more opportunities and we develop that much more abilities. Usually, the way that we look at uncomfortable or unknown situations is that we attach a negative meaning to it, something bad, something that we don't like. Whereas if we start examining these situations or circumstances, we start learning and teaching ourselves how to adapt to them. And in this way, they become comfortable and at the same time we learn something new. This is how we develop and soar. Of course, this is also something that we should underline. This means to look for new things, to do them, to explore them, to examine them, and to get to know them, rather than just going in an uncomfortable situation and provoking ourselves in some sort of manner. As a basis, I think that these are the best advices that I can give you for developing new and better communication skills. And all the same, here are 2 more bullet points.